Carreyrou, Bad Blood, 1. A Purposeful Life. Elizabeth Holmes's early years are fascinating. She came from a distinguished family with a history of success in business and medicine. In high school, Holmes excelled academically and socially. She set her sights on Stanford and was admitted in 2002. At Stanford, Holmes studied computer science and electrical engineering. She also spent a summer studying Mandarin in China. Holmes was a bright student at Stanford, but she had a passion for improving healthcare. She wanted to develop new technologies to diagnose and treat medical conditions. She met Channing Robertson, a charismatic professor, and Shonak Roy, a PhD student. They were impressed by her inventiveness and determination. Holmes proposed a patent for an arm patch that would diagnose and treat medical conditions. Robertson was impressed, and Roy got swept up in the enthusiasm of launching a startup. In May 2004, Holmes dropped out of Stanford to start her company. She was just 19 years old. Elizabeth initially incorporated the company as Real-Time Cures. She leveraged family connections to secure investments from notable individuals like Tim Draper and Victor Palmieri. While some venture capital firms were skeptical, Elizabeth raised nearly $6 million from a diverse group of investors. This included John Bryan, Stephen L. Feinberg, and fellow Stanford student Michael Chang. Over time, the company simplified its approach to focus on diagnostic capabilities. This led to the development of a cartridge and reader system that could measure multiple blood substances. By late 2005, the company was making progress with a prototype, a growing team, and a business model for licensing their technology to pharmaceutical companies. Their work was gaining attention in the startup community. Elizabeth's journey as an entrepreneur was marked by innovation, determination, and financial backing from various sources. She even shared an interview in Red Herring magazine with her employees. The Gluebot. Elizabeth's vision of tailoring drugs to individuals was impressive. She used Celebrex as an example, explaining how the Theranos system could eliminate its side effects, potentially saving lives. Ed took on the challenge of turning Theranos' prototype into a viable product. Their journey was marked by challenges like the complexity of miniaturizing the system and preventing fluid leaks. Their efforts were further complicated by the compartmentalization of information within the company. Employee turnover was high, and Ed resisted Elizabeth's proposal to run engineering around the clock. Elizabeth was driven and relentless, striving to achieve her goals at any cost. Her influences included an older man named Sonny, Don Lucas, and Larry Ellison, who had invested in Theranos. Their trip to Nashville involved using their technology with terminal cancer patients. Elizabeth saw the trip as a success, but Ed questioned the readiness of Theranos' technology for such a study. In 2007, Theranos was a growing company with over 70 employees. But a lawsuit against 3 former employees signaled a change. The lawsuit was over the theft of intellectual property, and the situation put Theranos in lockdown. Competitive tensions among engineering teams grew fierce. Tony Nugent's team joined the competition and built a prototype that automated the blood testing process. This led to the creation of the Edison system, Theranos' blood testing device, but the shift caused some employees to leave. Elizabeth remained enthusiastic about the Edison and showcased it outside the office. But Tony felt they should have been more cautious and thorough. The technology was not yet a finished product, and Tony put a for research use only label on it. This marked significant changes within the company. Apple envy. Holmes hired several Apple employees to help make her company as successful as Apple. Anna Areola, Theranos' chief design architect, was one of the Apple employees that Holmes hired. She helped to design the Edison, Theranos' blood testing device. Despite the promising start, the Apple transplants soon noticed that Theranos had a strange atmosphere. The company's computer network was set up in a way that information was split into silos, and employees were not allowed to communicate with each other via instant messaging. Anna, Justin, and Aaron Moore began to share their concerns about Theranos. They were worried that the company was crossing an ethical line with a study involving cancer patients in Tennessee. Despite the microfluidic system not working properly, Elizabeth was pushing ahead with the study anyway. Anna reached out to Avi Tavanian, a former Apple colleague who was on Theranos' board of directors, to voice her concerns. Avi was one of Steve Jobs' oldest and closest friends. He invested $1.5 million in Theranos and joined the board of directors. He noticed a pattern of overly optimistic revenue projections that didn't materialize. Elizabeth faced repeated delays in the product rollout, raising concerns. Avi sensed that something was amiss and questioned the inconsistencies. Avi objected to Elizabeth's proposal to create a foundation for tax purposes and requested a special grant of stock for it. He found this proposal problematic as it could potentially give Elizabeth even more control. Avi decided to resign, realizing he didn't want further complications. He examined all the documents he had received as a board member, noticing significant discrepancies and changes in the company within a year. Avi believed that Theranos needed adult supervision and showed the documents to Don Lucas, who suggested his resignation. This decision led to threats from the company's legal team. Avi decided not to escalate the situation further and wrote a parting letter to Don Lucas, explaining his reasons for leaving Theranos and raising concerns about the company's conduct.